Let's see what comedies are on Netflix today. Nah, too goofy. Nah, nah. Come on, there's like the fifth one. No, no. You know what? You know what'd be really useful? If there was some list on YouTube of the best comedies to watch on Netflix. Well, now there is, because today I'll be releasing my top 10 favorite comedies that are currently on Netflix. This is March 2018, so let's get right into it with my number 10 pick, Definitely Maybe. This is an awesome and unique romantic comedy starring Ryan Reynolds, and basically the plot of the story, it's a little bit like How I Met Your Mother, where the daughter is asking her father, Ryan Reynolds, about like how he met her mom. So, like, back in the day, there was, like, these three women that he loved, and, like, he changes the name so the daughter doesn't know which one's the mom, and then, like, he tells the story, which is a really interesting story, great comedy, great romance, it's a really interesting plot, and a very unique romantic comedy, which I love, and then she has to guess at the end who's the mom is. So, obviously, like, this type of movie kind of lends to, like, the ending's gonna be a little bit of, like, either way, like, it could be a little bit of a letdown, you know what I mean? Because it has to end in one of three ways. But I think they do a great job of how it ends, and they could pretty much do the best they could with like how they constructed the plot. So overall, I give this movie a 4.5 out of 5. It's really great, and I highly recommend watching this. This is definitely one of the best romantic comedies of the past 10 years. At the number 9 spot, I have Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, a disaster romantic comedy starring Steve Carell and Keira Knightley. So, surprisingly, this movie got not very great reviews, 55%. Rotten Tomatoes criticized the tonal shifts and the disappointing third act. But guess what? I thought it was really great. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, and I think this is definitely one of the best romantic comedies of the last 10 years, just like Definitely Maybe. This one's also really unique, and though, yeah, it might be a little bit predictable at the end, it's just a really heartwarming story. I think it has some, like, just great, like, movement of the plot. Like, it's very different and weird and not what you expect. So yeah, I know there are some tonal shifts, but I thought they were in an interesting way. They kind of fit with it because like it kind of is supposed to have some like weird tonal shifts because this is the end of the world. Everything's supposed to be a little screwed up. Yes, it's a romantic comedy and this like crazy action film. It's supposed to be like that. Plus, it's hilarious. This is a great movie. Don't let the reviews sway you. Definitely give this a try on Netflix. At number 8, I have the only superhero movie to make this list, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the hit Marvel sequel. I feel like this movie is often forgotten. They're just like, oh, this is just a lesser version of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. And yes, I do prefer the first one, but there's a very different story. It's much more intimate. I think it's funnier with really hilarious jokes. All of them, it seemed to click. And it has just a great story. It has a great surprise villain. It has some great action sequences. And just some really nice themes on just like who your real family is and stuff. And the togetherness of the team. I think this is a very character-based film. And I love that. It also has a great plot and some great visuals. I'm so excited for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Because so far this is shaping up to be a superb trilogy. At number 7, I have A Serious Man, a brilliant Coen Brothers dark comedy. If you're looking for a really bright and hilarious comedy, do not watch this. Yes, this movie is funny, but in a kind of depressing way. This movie is super brilliant, what it says about how, like, people, like, sometimes they don't do the wrong thing, but when they don't take action and stuff, they can just ruin their life. This is a guy that really is just a total wimp. And I can't really say it any better, but this movie is just very poignant. It has a really interesting plot. It has superb acting from especially Michael Stuhlbarg, and the humor is pretty solid here too. I think this is one of Coen Brothers, definitely one of their best films. The script is on point like always. I would give it an overall 4.5 out of 5. I highly recommend watching this movie, but you have to be in a very like just like a mood that's not like just super, just like wanting something super exciting, because this is a slower, more methodical movie. At number 6, I have Bernie, an insane crime dark comedy starring Jack Black. Made by Richard Linklater, one of my favorite directors, Bernie just has a ton of style to it. He breaks up into these different chapters and really makes it interesting. He has like these almost like a mockumentary feel to it sometimes, kind of like I, Tonya, which is another amazing movie. But it has all the southern flair. It's really great. They make you sympathize with Bernie and bring some great themes about like can good people do terrible things and still get like redemption. And Jack Black just, I think he deserved like acting nomination for the Oscars for this. He was outstanding. Matthew McConaughey is great. Shirley MacLaine was just excellent too. They have a really interesting relationship, Jack Black and Shirley MacLaine. This is a really unique true story. I'm so glad I got the film adaptation it deserved. You must see it. It's hilarious, but it's really dark also, so be prepared for some like sad parts. And it has a little bit of violence too. So it really just has everything you could hope for. This is an awesome movie. I'm so upset that like I feel like it's just not talked about enough. But I'm so glad that I eventually found this on Netflix. Thank you, Netflix, for having this on your streaming service. At number 5, I have Breakfast at Tiffany's, the classic Audrey Hepburn romantic comedy. So one day when I was on Netflix, I was just like, you know what, I've heard so much about Breakfast at Tiffany's, hell, it even spawned a great song. This movie's such a classic, why not give it a try? Classics often disappoint me, but I'm glad to say this one exceeded my expectations so much. I gave it a 4.75 out of 5. It is one of my favorite romantic comedies now, and like there's some like racial like things about like Asians because you know it's in the 60s and it's like so there's a little outdatedness to it, but that's really the only con. This movie has great themes about how like you need somebody in life. The acting and the chemistry is superb. It's so ahead of its times in so many ways in terms of just like romance, how they look at romance. It feels so modern. The pacing is great, surprising for a 60s movie, and overall this movie is just, you really need to see. Don't just like look over it because it's an old movie. This is a classic that deserves to be a classic. It is definitely one of the best 60s movies I've ever seen. At number 4, I have Midnight in Paris, the Owen Wilson starring Woody Allen directed romantic comedy. Midnight in Paris is a near perfect movie, so I'll be giving it a 4.75 out of 5. So this is a very different type of Woody Allen movie. Yes, it has lots of that melancholy humor to it. It's hilarious, but also pretty dark and sad, but also a little uplifting in a way. It has a plethora of emotions that it makes you feel throughout the runtime, and it's only like an hour and a half. It's great to watch. It feels super modern. Like Owen Wilson is an awesome actor, and he's playing a very, very different part than what you've seen him in. This is not Wedding Crashers at all. And he's superb. Rachel McAdams, she plays mean very well. I love how like he goes back into the 20s, and it's kind of like this man who's like out of place in his time, and it's kind of a feeling lots of people have felt before where they just like feel out of place in a situation. It might not be your time period and as drastic as this, but it's just a really brilliant just look at human nature from Woody Allen. He's gained like experience, as you can tell, because this movie is just knocks it out of the park. Definitely one of my favorite romantic comedies, and really just a spectacular film. It's more than a comedy. It's like a drama, it's a romance, it's everything. It's so special. Now in the top 3, I got Heathers, the cult high school black comedy. I'm gonna get right in here and say Heathers is a perfect 5-star movie. This is so brilliant. It seems like every little detail in this movie is meticulously planned out. That's why it's such a cult favorite. I mean, this is such a rewatchable film too. First off, it's hilarious with its really dark comedy. It's a brilliant satire on like small town America and just high school in general. It's one of the most real high school movies. So nowadays you get a lot more like realistic ones like Edge of 17, for example. But back in the 80s you get the Breakfast Clubs or like Ferris Bueller's. Ferris Bueller's amazing, but like they're just not as accurate. This is a very accurate movie, and then they just expand on it with this crazy like action and violence, and it's just so unique and brilliant that they came up with this. And I just love how the plot just escalates from this kind of like fun like high school comedy into this insane violence like gore fest. It's brilliant. It's so fun to watch. Performances are insanely good. Winona Ryder and Christian Slater. I'm so sad this was just like not really as like thought of as being brilliant at the time, like no Oscars or anything like that. But now I'm so glad it gets the appreciation it deserves. This is definitely one of the top 3 high school movies of all time. If you haven't seen it, make sure to do so right now. At number 2, I got the great Jim Carrey comedy drama Truman Show. So now we're probably into like some of my top 20 movies of all time with these top 2. This is definitely a 5-star film. And when I first saw this, I was blown away because I know Jim Carrey for like Mask and Liar Liar. And then I see this and I'm like, what? He can act his dramatic butt off like crazy. And he has great comedy in here too. It's kind of dark, but it's also great. It's just a really great look at how you just can't like make like a fake life. It's better to be living in the real world than living in this like fake like fantasy almost, and you can't just like try to synthesize life. This movie, it's wacko concept. Like, when you think about it, like, this movie, I saw when I was like 10 for the first time. I was psychologically damaged after it. No, there's no scary violence or anything. But for the next 2 weeks, I was like, am I living in the Shane Show or something? Like, I was scared out of my mind. This movie is so great. It's hilarious. It's brilliant commentaries on like life and stuff. Performances are spectacular. The script is great. There's some great memorable lines in there, and that some of those final scenes. Oh my God, such just an upbeat movie, and I love it so much. And my favorite comedy currently on Netflix is Saint Vincent. This oddball Bill Murray comedy that is so awesome. So obviously this is getting a perfect 5 stars. So why do I love this movie so much? I feel like this movie is very just unnoticed. Like, when it first came out, people they gave it great reviews, but it's kind of been like just forgotten. I think this is definitely one of the best movies of all time. It has brilliant themes on how people aren't perfect, but like, you can always just improve yourself. And yeah, it's a simple theme, but it's just so uplifting, and I love these movies where people like change for the better during it. Bill Murray starts off as this total jerk. He's funny, but he's a total jerk, and then he just becomes a better person thanks to his crazy oddball relationship with this little boy who becomes his neighbor. It's wacko. It's a super interesting and different movie. Very interesting, different comedy, but I love it so much. It's totally the type of movie that, for me, great script, great performances, great direction, great themes. What's not to love? So maybe you don't like this movie, but for me it's perfect. So definitely just give this a try if you haven't seen it yet. I don't think you'll be disappointed. So that wraps up my top 10 comedies currently on Netflix. This is March 21st, 2018 right now. So there's probably going to be some great comedies added sometime in the future, or some of these might get removed. So this list will probably always be changing, but right now this is the best, in my opinion. So thank you for watching. Subscribe for Film Frenzy for more awesome film content. See you guys later. Bye.